My girlfriend casually posted, "I think I just met the one," while I was paying all her expenses, then kissed another man on vacation. So I canceled all her credit cards so she couldn't come back. Before we go on, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling us which city you're tuning in from. We've been together for almost 4 years. We'd lived in the same apartment for 2.5 years, and at least from my perspective, we were building something stable. We weren't a perfect couple, sure. We argued about little things. Who forgot to pay the internet? Who left the dishes in the sink? Or if we should save more money instead of going out to dinner so often. But nothing that made me think we were on the verge of a breakup. Priscilla was always a very social person. She had a pretty close group of friends from college. I never had a problem with that. They went out together, took occasional trips, celebrated birthdays, the usual. The situation changed about 6 months ago. Priscilla was fired from her job. She worked in digital marketing for a small agency that, according to her, started having financial problems. One Friday afternoon, she was called to a meeting and told they were going to downsize. She was among the positions that would disappear. I remember that day perfectly. She came to the apartment with red eyes from crying so much. She was frustrated, confused, and very worried about money. I tried to reassure her. I told her those things happened and that she'd find something soon. Priscilla had experience and good references, so in theory it shouldn't be too difficult. At least that's what I thought at the time. The first weeks after being fired were normal. She updated her resume, sent out applications, had a couple of interviews, but after a while the process started to stall. One company told her she was overqualified for the position. Another chose someone with more experience in a specific area. In a couple of places, they didn't even reply. As the months passed, Priscilla started to get discouraged. I saw her spend more time at home, on her phone, or watching shows. Some mornings she'd wake up late. Others she'd say she was too stressed to send more applications that day. I didn't blame her entirely. Job searching can be emotionally exhausting. Meanwhile, I covered practically all the expenses. Rent, utilities, food, gas, subscriptions, everything. It bothered me at the time. We'd been together for years, and from my point of view, supporting each other in difficult times was part of a relationship. Priscilla always said that when she got another job, she'd compensate for all the effort. But the months kept passing for months, 5 months, and nothing really changed. Around the 6th month was when she mentioned the idea of the trip. One night we were having dinner when she brought it up. "The girls are planning a short trip," she told me, "just to clear our heads a bit." I asked her what she meant exactly. She explained that some of her friends wanted to spend a few days in a nearby tourist city. Nothing too elaborate: beach, restaurants, going out at night, and disconnecting a bit from the routine. Priscilla said something I remember clearly. "I think I need it," she told me. "I've been feeling stuck for months." According to her, the idea was to relax for a few days and return with a clearer mind to start looking for work with energy again. At first, I hesitated a little, not because I didn't want her to travel, but because the financial situation was delicate. I was paying for everything, and a trip meant more expenses. Priscilla noticed my expression and quickly added, "It won't be that expensive." The girls found a discounted hotel. She did some approximate calculations: cheap flights, splitting the hotel among them all, simple meals. Still, it was still money, but seeing her so discouraged for months had been difficult. If that trip really helped her clear her head and come back with a different attitude, maybe it was worth it. So I agreed. I paid for the flights and also lent her one of my credit cards for emergencies during the trip. I told her to use it only if necessary. Priscilla was very grateful. Over the next few days, she talked a lot about the trip. She showed photos of the hotel, places they wanted to visit, bars with good reviews. She seemed excited again, something I hadn't seen in her for months. She even told me several times that when she returned, she was going to focus completely on finding work. "This would be like a reset," she told me one night. The Thursday of the trip arrived. I took her to the airport early in the morning. Her friends were already there when we arrived. They were all talking, laughing, and drinking coffee while waiting aboard. Priscilla gave me a long hug. "Thanks for this," she told me. I told her to have fun and to enjoy the break. That was the last completely normal moment we had. The first day of the trip was quiet. She sent me some photos by message: the view from the hotel, a huge pool, a seafood dish at a restaurant. It seemed like a typical trip. On Friday night, she also wrote to me. She told me they had gone out to a bar near the hotel and that the place was full of tourists. Nothing strange. Saturday morning, however, started to feel weird. I woke up around 8 and checked my phone. I had several Instagram notifications. I almost never post anything, but I follow a lot of people. Among the notifications, there was one that said Priscilla had uploaded a story. I opened the app without thinking too much. The first story was a photo of the group of friends on the beach, all smiling with drinks in hand. The next story was a short video of them walking along a promenade full of bars. And then there was the third. It was a photo of Priscilla sitting on what appeared to be a bar terrace. In front of her was a man I didn't know. The photo wasn't particularly compromising. They were just sitting talking, but what was written above the image was what made me stop. In large letters it said, "I think I just met the one." At first, I thought it was a joke, one of those phrases people post when they're on vacation and want to seem funny, but something in the context made me feel uncomfortable. I checked if there were more stories. There was another. This time it was a short video where Priscilla and that same man were toasting with glasses. Not much could be heard, but she was laughing. I looked at the guy's profile name. She had tagged him. I went in out of curiosity. He was a man who seemed to be about our age. Photos of trips, motorcycles, parties, beaches. The kind of profile many people have when they spend a lot of time in tourist places. I didn't know what to think. My first impulse was to write to Priscilla. I sent her a simple message. "All good." She didn't reply. I waited about 20 minutes. Nothing. I thought maybe she was busy or in the pool. I decided to let it go, but something had already made me uncomfortable. A couple of hours later, I received a message from someone I didn't expect. It was Laura, one of Priscilla's friends, who was also on the trip. Laura wasn't someone I talked to much. We got along well, but our communication was basically greetings at meetings or birthdays. The message said, "Hi, Duncan. I don't want to get involved where I'm not wanted, but I think you should talk to Priscilla." I asked her what was happening. Her reply took a few minutes. She's very involved with a guy she met last night. I felt a strange mixture of surprise and annoyance. I asked her what she meant exactly. Laura took longer to answer this time. Then she sent another message. She met him at a bar. Since then, she's practically not left his side. This morning, she went to the beach with him. I felt something inside me start to tense up. I asked her if she was sure. Laura replied yes. She also added something that made me think. "I think she plans to stay longer here." That completely took me by surprise. Staying more days meant changing flights, paying for more hotel, reorganizing everything. I immediately wrote to Priscilla. "What's going on?" Several minutes passed before she replied. Her answer was short. "I'm busy. We'll talk later." Nothing else. No explanation, no context, just that. I kept staring at the phone for several seconds, but what happened approximately an hour later was what really changed everything, because Priscilla posted another story. The image clearly showed a beach, clear sand, the sea in the background, several people walking near the water. The video seemed to have been recorded by someone else because Priscilla and the same man from the bar were seen walking together. She was wearing a light beach dress. He had a white shirt and sunglasses. In the video, they were laughing. For a few seconds, they walked towards the water, and then the man took her by the waist. Priscilla didn't pull away. On the contrary, she got closer to him and kissed him. The video lasted barely 8 or 9 seconds, but it was enough to understand exactly what was happening. Above the video, there was a phrase written in white letters. "Love knocks on your door when you least expect it." I kept staring at the screen without reacting for several seconds. I'd seen many strange things online before. Exaggerated stories, people behaving ridiculously, couples fighting publicly on social media. But I never thought I'd see something like that published by the person I'd lived with for 4 years. I felt first disbelief, then a very clear mixture of anger and something harder to describe. It wasn't just jealousy, it was the feeling that I was being disrespected in a public and deliberate way. It wasn't a private conversation, it wasn't a mistake, it was a post visible to anyone who followed her account. I took several deep breaths. Then I picked up the phone and called her. The phone rang for a few seconds. I thought she might not answer, but finally she replied, "Hello." Priscilla's voice came immediately from the other end. She sounded very different from the night before. This time she did seem nervous. What did you do? What do you mean? My phone isn't working. I didn't answer. I tried to turn it on several times. She continued, and it says it's blocked. I waited a few seconds before replying. Yes. There was a brief silence. Did you also cancel the card? Yes. This time the silence was longer. When she spoke again, her tone was no longer calm. Duncan, why did you do that? Do you really need me to explain it? Yes. Now she sounded annoyed. I'm in another country and I have no money. That sounds complicated. I can't pay for the hotel. I understand. Her breathing became heavier. How am I supposed to get home? I waited a few seconds before replying. Then I said exactly what I was thinking. I don't know. There was total silence on the other end. Then I added, ask your mister, right? I hung up. I had nothing more to tell her. For a few minutes, I sat in silence, looking at the living room table. It was strange how quickly a person's perception can change. The day before, I still thought of Priscilla as my partner, someone I shared a life with. Now all I felt was a mixture of disappointment and exhaustion, not explosive anger, rather the feeling that something had definitively ended. I got up and went straight to the bedroom. The apartment was still full of her things. Clothes in the closet, shoes in the hallway, makeup products in the bathroom, some books she had never finished reading on the nightstand. For a few seconds, I stood looking at the open closet. Then I started taking everything out. I didn't do it with violence or with drama. I simply took a large box I'd stored in the closet and started putting her things in it. Shirts, dresses, shoes, cosmetics, then another box, and then another. I worked like that for almost 2 hours. When I finished, there were 5 boxes stacked near the apartment door. I had no intention of keeping them for weeks. Priscilla had made it clear that she wanted to be a free spirit, so I thought it was best that her things were also free outside my house. I was sitting in the living room when I heard loud knocks on the door. I opened it. It was Priscilla's father. I'd seen him many times before. A man in his late 50s with a strong character who always spoke as if he was giving orders, but this time he was clearly furious. He didn't even say hello. You're a coward, he said immediately. You left my daughter stranded. I didn't answer. I simply opened the door a little wider. Good thing you came, I said. That way you can take her things. He stared at me for a few seconds, confused by my answer. Then he looked inside the apartment and saw the boxes. What's this? Her things. I turned, took the first box, and carried it to the door. I left it in the hallway. Then I went back for another. Priscilla's father started to get even more annoyed. Did you cancel her cards? He asked aggressively. Now how's she supposed to get back? I didn't answer. I took another box and carried it to the door. I'm talking to you. I kept walking. Are you deaf or what? I put another box in the hallway. That's when he completely lost his patience. He grabbed my shirt forcefully. I'm talking to you, little man, he said. How are you going to fix this? How is my daughter going to come back? I looked at him directly. Then I pushed his hand away. Don't touch me. Answer me. At that moment, I had no reason to stay calm with him. I don't give a damn about your daughter, the slut. The silence in the hallway was immediate. The little man here is you. I continued. You come to ask me for money? What's wrong? I kept saying. Don't you have money to bring your little princess back? That's what made him explode. He punched me directly in the face. It wasn't a professional punch or anything like that, but it was strong enough to make me step back. I felt the impact on my left eye. I didn't respond with a punch. I simply pushed him back to get him away. Take the boxes, I said. My eye was starting to hurt, and I knew it would probably bruise. Priscilla's father was breathing heavily, still furious, but finally he started to pick up the boxes. One by one, he carried them to his truck. We didn't speak again. When he left, I closed the door, went to the bathroom, and looked at myself in the mirror. My eye was already swollen. I took a photo with my phone. After thinking about it for a few minutes, I left the apartment and went straight to the nearest police station. I had no intention of starting a huge legal war, but I also wasn't going to ignore that someone had punched me inside my own house. I filed a simple report for assault. Nothing more. The next few days were strangely quiet. Priscilla didn't call me again. I assumed she'd be sorting out her situation. A couple of days later, I received a message from Laura, the friend who'd written to me before. She told me what had happened. Apparently, Mr. Wright had spent a few days with Priscilla after she separated from her friends. They went to parties, went out in the city. They were together on the beach. But after 3 or 4 days, the guy simply disappeared. He stopped replying to messages, stopped answering calls. According to Laura, no one from the friend group saw him again. Priscilla was left alone, without the guy, without friends nearby, and without money. A few days later, she finally returned to the city. She didn't try to talk to me, and I had no interest in doing so either. The complaint ran its course. Since there was evidence of the punch and the incident occurred in the building, Priscilla's father ended up having to resolve the matter legally. In the end, he had to pay a small compensation for the assault. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to close the matter. Since then, I haven't heard anything from Priscilla. And honestly, I have no interest in doing so either. 4 years of relationship ended in the most absurd way possible because of an Instagram story on a beach and because of someone who believed that unexpected love was more important than reality. If someone had told me this story a year ago, I probably would have thought it was exaggerated, but now I know it's not. Sometimes people show who they really are in the most unexpected way. It just takes the right moment for them to do it.